They say silence is golden. What they don't tell you is that sometimes silence is sapphire blue, rare, valuable, and completely wasted on people who can't recognize worth when it's placed directly in their hands. I learned this lesson watching my daughter-in-law throw away $850,000 like it was a gum wrapper. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Tiffany Chen, and for the past year, I've been playing a role I never auditioned for: the embarrassing mother-in-law. The one who doesn't know Prada from Target, who shops at farmers markets instead of Whole Foods, who wears the same sensible shoes year after year because, well, they still work perfectly fine. To my daughter-in-law, Amelia, I'm a relic. A well-meaning but hopelessly unsophisticated woman who married into money through my late husband but never quite learned how to spend it properly. She's not entirely wrong about the first part. I do prefer farmers markets. I do wear sensible shoes. What Amelia doesn't know, what I've never bothered to explain because, frankly, it's none of her business, is that I don't need to impress anyone with labels and logos. When you own significant stakes in 3 major corporations, when your investment portfolio includes some of the finest gemstones and diamonds in private hands, when your monthly passive income exceeds what most people make in a year, you stop caring about proving anything to anyone, especially to a 28-year-old who thinks shopping constitutes a personality. The trouble started the moment Jason brought Amelia home to meet me. She walked into my modest 2-bedroom condo with her Birkin bag swinging from her elbow, her Louboutin clicking on my hardwood floors, and I watched her eyes sweep across my simple furniture, my second-hand bookshelf, my grandmother's old tea set, and I saw the exact moment she categorized me. Filed me away under disappointingly ordinary. Her smile never wavered, but her eyes did all the talking. They said, "This is my husband's mother. This is the best the Chen family could produce." I served her tea in chipped cups. I asked about her family. She told me about the Millers. Old money from Connecticut, summer homes in the Hamptons, winter skiing in Aspen, spring shopping in Paris. Every sentence dripped with casual wealth. The kind that assumes everyone speaks this language. She asked about my hobbies. I told her I enjoyed reading and visiting estate sales for old jewelry. "Oh, how quaint," she'd said, and I knew exactly what she meant. The wedding was beautiful. I paid for half of it, anonymously through my lawyer, who presented it as a gift from my late husband's estate. I sat in the 3rd row and watched my son marry a woman who looked at him like he was her prize, her trophy, her ticket to the lifestyle she believed she deserved. And I said nothing, because Jason was happy, and isn't that what mothers are supposed to want? For their first anniversary, I wanted to give them something meaningful, something that would last. I went to my safety deposit box and retrieved a sapphire necklace I'd purchased at auction 20 years ago. A Ceylon sapphire, royal blue, cut in the old style, surrounded by small diamonds in a platinum setting. I'd bought it not as an investment, though it had appreciated considerably, but because it reminded me of the ocean at dusk, that perfect moment when day surrenders to night. It was one of my favourite pieces. I had it cleaned and placed in a simple velvet box. No fancy packaging, no designer label, just the piece itself. I brought it to their house on a Tuesday afternoon. Amelia was home alone, Jason still at work. She opened the door wearing athleisure that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, her hair in a perfect ponytail, her face carefully made up even though she had nowhere to go. "Tiffany," she said, and I noticed she'd stopped calling me Mom after the first month of marriage. What a surprise. "I hope I'm not interrupting. I wanted to bring by your anniversary gift." Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "Oh, you didn't have to do that." But she stepped aside and let me in, and I followed her to the living room where everything was white and chrome and carefully curated for maximum Instagram impact. She gestured to the couch, and I sat while she remained standing, a power play I recognized but didn't acknowledge. I handed her the box. She opened it with the kind of smile you give a child who's drawn you a crayon picture, indulgent, slightly condescending, already preparing the polite thank you. Then she looked at the necklace. Her smile froze. Oh, wow. That's very blue. It's a sapphire. Ceylon sapphire, actually. I thought the colour would complement your complexion. She lifted it from the box, holding it between two fingers like it might contaminate her. It's kind of old-fashioned, isn't it? The setting is so vintage. It was cut in the traditional style, yes. Where did you get this? One of your estate sales? She said estate sales the way other people might say landfills. I purchased it some time ago. I thought you might appreciate it. She set it back in the box carefully, the way you'd set down something you're afraid might break, or something you're afraid might be worthless. That's very thoughtful of you, Tiffany. Thank you. Her voice said, thank you. Her face said, please don't give me any more of your sad, outdated jewellery. I left shortly after, and I did not mention the sapphire's provenance. I did not mention that it came from a private collection that had once belonged to a minor European royal house. I did not mention that 3 other bidders had driven the price up to $600,000 20 years ago, and that similar pieces now commanded well over $800,000 at auction. I did not mention any of this because I was curious to see what Amelia would do with something valuable that she couldn't recognize as valuable. I got my answer a week later. I'd stopped by unannounced, a habit Amelia hated but tolerated, ostensibly to drop off some books Jason had asked to borrow. The housekeeper, Maria, answered the door. Maria was a tired woman in her 50s who cleaned houses to send money back to family in Honduras. And unlike everyone else in Amelia's orbit, Maria saw me as a person rather than a curiosity. Mrs. Chen, she said quietly, Miss Amelia is upstairs. I'll tell her you're here. Thank you, Maria. Actually, could I trouble you for a glass of water? She nodded and led me to the kitchen, and that's when I saw it. The velvet box sitting on top of the trash bin near the pantry. Open. Empty. Maria followed my gaze and her face flushed. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Chen. I didn't want to say anything, but I saw her throw it away yesterday. The necklace. She said it looked fake and she didn't want it cluttering her jewellery drawer. She told me to dispose of the box too, but I thought maybe you'd want it back. The water glass in my hand didn't shake. My voice didn't rise. I simply asked, do you know where the necklace is now? In the bin outside. Trash pickup is tomorrow morning. I set down the glass. Maria, I need you to do something for me, and I need you not to tell anyone. Can you do that? She nodded. And I saw in her eyes that she understood. She understood exactly what kind of person Amelia was, and exactly what kind of person I might be. Retrieve the necklace. Clean it carefully. Put it in this envelope. I pulled a manila envelope from my purse, one I always carried for documents. Bring it to this address tomorrow. I wrote down my lawyer's office address. Ask for David Chen. Tell him Tiffany sent you. He'll have an envelope for you as well. Her eyes widened. Mrs. Chen, I can't. Yes, you can. And Maria, when you deliver that necklace, my lawyer will have $10,000 in cash waiting for you, for your honesty and your discretion. I watched her process this. $10,000, months of wages, money for her family. I don't want Miss Amelia to get in trouble, she said quietly. Neither do I. I just want my property back. That's all. And I want to make sure that someone who recognizes the value of honesty is rewarded appropriately. She took the envelope with shaking hands. I found Amelia upstairs in her walk-in closet, organizing shoes by color. She turned when she heard me, and her surprise was genuine. Tiffany, I didn't know you were here. I brought Jason's books. Maria let me in. How are you, dear? Oh, I'm wonderful. Jason's taking me to Napa this weekend. We're staying at the Meadowood. How lovely. Anniversary celebration. Exactly. We decided to make a week of it. She turned back to her shoes, and I could see she was hoping I'd leave soon. Did you like the necklace? I asked, my voice pleasant, conversational. Her hands stilled for just a moment. Oh, yes. It was very thoughtful. I noticed you're not wearing it. Well, it's not really my style, you know. I'm more into contemporary pieces, minimalist designs. That one was just so ornate. I understand. Not everything is to everyone's taste. She relaxed, hearing what she wanted to hear. Agreement. Capitulation. Exactly. I mean, it's the thought that counts, right? And I really do appreciate the gesture. I smiled. Of course. Well, I should let you get back to your organizing. I left her there, surrounded by hundreds of pairs of shoes, each one marked with a red sole or a designer logo, each one purchased to prove something to someone. I left her there with her minimalist aesthetic and her contemporary taste, and I went home to make a phone call. Evelyn, it's Tiffany. I need a favor. 2 weeks passed. I didn't visit Jason and Amelia. I didn't call. I let them wonder if perhaps I'd finally gotten the hint, finally understood my place in their cosmopolitan world. Let them think I was at home, nursing my hurt feelings, accepting my role as the awkward relative who meant well, but simply didn't understand style. Instead, I was planning. The Children's Hospital Foundation annual gala was scheduled for the end of the month. It was one of the city's major charitable events, always well attended by society types, always covered by the local media, always a place to see and be seen. I'd attended for years, quietly, usually alone, making modest donations that were always anonymous. The foundation board knew me, of course. They knew exactly who I was and what I was capable of giving. But we'd always maintained a certain discretion, a certain privacy. This year, I told them, would be different. I'd like to make a major donation, I told Caroline Westbrook, the foundation director, but I'd like it to be public, very public. I want to present it personally, on stage, during the main program. And I'd like Evelyn Morrison to be there to authenticate and appraise the piece. Caroline's voice brightened. Evelyn Morrison was one of the world's foremost gemstone experts, a regular on Antiques Roadshow, author of 3 definitive texts on precious stones. Her presence alone would guarantee media attention. What exactly are you donating, Tiffany? A sapphire necklace, Ceylon royal blue, vintage cut, platinum and diamond setting. I acquired it 20 years ago. I think it's time it went to a good cause. That's incredibly generous. May I ask the appraised value? Evelyn will confirm, but I believe current market value is somewhere between $800,000 and $900,000. The silence on the other end was everything I'd hoped for. Tiffany, my God, that's extraordinary. I'm glad you think so. Now I have one more request. I'd like to purchase 2 tables at the gala, one for myself and guests, one for my son Jason Chen and his wife's family, the Millers. I believe you know them? Of course. They're regular attendees. Perfect. And Caroline? I'd like to be seated close to them. Not at the same table, but nearby. Clear sightlines. Can you arrange that? I could hear the curiosity in her voice, the questions she was too polite to ask. Of course, we'll make sure of it. One last thing. When you send the invitation to the Millers, make sure to mention that this year's event is particularly special, that there will be some significant announcements. Can you do that? Absolutely. Tiffany, may I ask? You'll see soon enough, Caroline. Just trust me. The invitations went out. I called Jason personally to invite him and Amelia, framing it as a family obligation, a chance for us to spend an evening together doing something meaningful. He agreed readily, probably relieved that I was making an effort, probably hoping it meant I was finally accepting Amelia properly into the family. I sent invitations to the Millers through Caroline, along with a note saying how much I was looking forward to finally spending a proper evening with them, getting to know them better. They accepted because, of course, they did. The Children's Hospital Gala was exactly the kind of event where the Millers liked to be seen. The night of the gala, I dressed carefully. Not in designer clothes, not in obvious displays of wealth, but in a simple black dress that cost $300 and looked it. I wore my late husband's wedding ring and a plain pair of pearl earrings. I looked exactly like what I always looked like, respectable, modest, slightly dowdy. The comfortable mother-in-law who tried her best but just couldn't quite pull together the sophistication that seemed to come so naturally to others. I arrived early. I checked the seating arrangements. The Millers were at table 7, Jason and Amelia with them. I was at table 6, separated by a narrow aisle, with perfect sightlines as promised. My table mates were members of the hospital foundation board, people who knew exactly who I was and what I represented, but who also understood the value of discretion. The Millers arrived fashionably late. Amelia's father, Richard, was tall and silver-haired, wearing his wealth like cologne, expensive but slightly overpowering. Her mother, Patricia, was dripping in jewellery that screamed price tags rather than taste. And Amelia herself, in a red dress that probably cost $5,000 and made her look like she was trying very, very hard. Jason saw me first and waved. I waved back, smiling warmly. They made their way to their table, and I watched Amelia lean over to whisper something to her mother, both of them glancing at me. Patricia's expression was polite but distant, the look of someone acknowledging the help. The program began. Dinner was served. Speeches were made. The foundation director talked about the importance of pediatric care, the lives saved, the families helped. People applauded at appropriate moments. Wine flowed. The Millers laughed loudly at their table, Richard's voice carrying across the room, making sure everyone knew they were having a wonderful time. Then Caroline took the stage for the major announcements. Before we move to our live auction, we have a very special presentation tonight. One of our longtime supporters has chosen to make an extraordinary donation to the foundation, and she's asked to present it personally. I'd like to invite Tiffany Chen to the stage. I stood. I felt every eye in the room turn to me, including 4 pairs of eyes from table 7 that radiated confusion. I walked to the stage slowly, steadily, my modest heels clicking on the floor. I took the microphone from Caroline and turned to face the audience. Thank you all for being here tonight. I've supported this foundation quietly for many years, but tonight I wanted to do something public, something meaningful, something that reflects the values I hold most dear. I paused and a stagehand brought out a display case on a pedestal. Inside, under museum lighting, lay the sapphire necklace. The room gasped. Even under stage lights, even at a distance, the stone was breathtaking. It glowed with that deep, rich blue that seems to hold entire oceans inside it. This is a Ceylon sapphire necklace, purchased 20 years ago at auction. I've treasured it ever since, but recently I've come to understand that true value isn't in what we own. It's in what we do with what we own. And so tonight, I'm donating this piece to the foundation to be sold, with all proceeds going directly to pediatric cardiac care. Applause began, but I held up my hand gently. Before I officially make this donation, I'd like to invite Evelyn Morrison to the stage. Evelyn is one of the world's foremost experts in precious gemstones, and she's generously agreed to provide a professional appraisal for our guests tonight. Evelyn emerged from the wings. I'd arranged for her to wait there, carrying her loupe and a small case of tools. She was a striking woman in her 60s, her grey hair cut in a sharp bob, her reputation impeccable. She examined the necklace under her loupe for several long moments while the room watched in silence. Then she looked up and smiled. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking at is an exceptional example of a Ceylon sapphire, weighing approximately 18 carats. The colour is a rare royal blue, completely unheated, which is extraordinarily unusual for stones of this size. The clarity is exceptional. The cut is in the traditional style, which actually enhances the stone's value for collectors who appreciate historical craftsmanship. The surrounding diamonds are old European cut, approximately 6 carats total weight, and the platinum setting is original to the piece. She paused, letting the technical details sink in. Conservative auction estimate for this piece would be in the range of $850,000 to $900,000. With the right buyer at the right sale, possibly more. The room erupted. Not polite applause now, but genuine amazement. People were standing, craning to see the necklace better. Cameras flashed. Caroline was crying, and at table 7, 4 faces had gone absolutely white. I took the microphone back. Thank you, Evelyn. Now I want to tell you all a little story about this necklace. The room quieted instantly. I originally purchased this piece as an investment, yes, but also because I loved it. I'm not a flashy person, as many of you can see. I gestured to my simple dress and a few people chuckled. I don't need designer labels or obvious displays of wealth. I'm comfortable with who I am and what I've built. But I do appreciate beauty, quality, craftsmanship, things that last. I looked directly at table 7 now. Jason had his hand over his mouth. Amelia had no colour in her face at all. Patricia Miller looked like she might faint. Recently, I gave this necklace as a gift to someone I cared about. Someone I hoped would appreciate it. But that person looked at this piece, this $850,000 work of art, and saw only something old-fashioned, something embarrassing, something, and I quote, fake. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. That person threw this necklace in the trash. Gasps now. Actual gasps. Fortunately, someone with more sense, someone who understood that value isn't always obvious, that worth isn't always advertised, retrieved it for me. And I realized something important. I realized that some people are so focused on labels, on logos, on surface appearance, that they can't recognize genuine quality when it's placed directly in their hands. I looked away from table 7, addressing the whole room again. So, I decided that this necklace deserved to go somewhere it would be truly valued. Somewhere it would do genuine good. The Children's Hospital Foundation has saved countless lives. They recognize value where it matters most, in children, in families, in futures. I can think of no better home for this piece. The applause was deafening. People stood. Caroline was sobbing openly now. Evelyn was smiling widely, clearly delighted by the drama of it all. I carefully placed the necklace back in its case and handed it to Caroline. We embraced. Cameras flashed frantically. I could see reporters at the back of the room on their phones, already filing stories. And at table 7, Amelia had her face in her hands. Jason was staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Shock, horror, understanding all mixed together. Richard Miller was gripping his wine glass so hard I thought the stem might snap. Patricia was whispering urgently to Amelia, who was shaking her head over and over. I left the stage to another round of applause and made my way back to my table. Several people stopped me to shake my hand, to thank me, to ask me questions. I smiled and nodded and said all the right things, and eventually, as I knew he would, Jason appeared at my elbow. "Mum, we need to talk." "Of course, darling. Should we step outside?" He nodded, his jaw clenched. I followed him out to the terrace where the spring air was cool and clear. He whirled on me the moment we were alone. "That was Amelia's necklace, the one you gave her." "Yes." She threw it away. "Yes. $850,000. Give or take, yes." He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture he'd done since childhood when he was overwhelmed. "Mum? Why didn't you tell her? Why didn't you tell me? We thought you'd bought it at some estate sale for a few $100. Did you ask?" He stopped. "What? Did either of you ask me about the necklace? About where I got it, what it cost, what it meant? Or did you just assume, based on your preconceived notions about who I am and what I'm capable of, that it must be cheap?" He had no answer for that. "Jason, I love you. You're my son, and I want nothing but happiness for you. But your wife has treated me with contempt from the day you met her. Not cruelty. Amelia's too sophisticated for outright cruelty, but contempt. She has decided that I'm an embarrassment. A dowdy, unsophisticated woman who doesn't understand her world of labels and luxury. And you've let her." "Mum, that's not—" "Every time I visit, she makes excuses to leave the room. Every gift I give is met with that polite, pitying smile. Every attempt I make to connect with her is rebuffed with condescension. And you, my darling son, have said nothing, done nothing, because it's easier to let me be the problem than to confront the fact that you married someone who judges people by their shoes. His face crumpled. I didn't realize. No, you didn't, because you see what you want to see. You see Amelia's beauty and charm and sophistication, and you've convinced yourself that those things matter more than character, than kindness, than the ability to recognize value that doesn't announce itself. The necklace was a test, Jason, a test Amelia failed spectacularly. But it's not about the necklace, it's about respect. It's about whether your wife can look past surface appearance to see substance. And the answer, I'm afraid, is no. Behind us, the terrace door opened. Amelia stumbled out, tears streaming down her face, her mother right behind her. Richard and Patricia followed, all four of them looking like they'd been struck by lightning. Tiffany, Patricia started, her voice high and strained, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, I said calmly. Everything is quite clear. Amelia fell to her knees in front of me, actually fell to her knees, her expensive red dress pooling around her. I'm so sorry. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't realize. If I'd known it was real, I never would have. If you'd known it was expensive, you mean? She froze, and I saw the truth hit her. She wouldn't have thrown away an expensive necklace. But she had no problem throwing away what she thought was a cheap one, what she thought was a pathetic attempt by a clueless old woman to give her something nice. Here's what you need to understand, Amelia. I don't care about apologies motivated by price tags. I don't care about remorse that only appears when you realize you made an expensive mistake. What I care about is respect. Basic human respect. The kind you show someone regardless of whether they're wearing Prada or Target, regardless of whether their jewelry came from Cartier or a flea market. I do respect you, she sobbed. I swear I do. No, you don't. You fear me now. You're embarrassed. You're horrified at what people will say, what they'll think. But that's not respect. That's just damage control. Richard stepped forward, his silver hair gleaming in the terrace lights, his face arranged in an expression of conciliation. Mrs. Chen, I think we all got off on the wrong foot here. Amelia's young, she made a mistake. We'd very much like to make this right. By doing what exactly? Writing a check, apologizing publicly, treating me with the deference you think I'm owed now that you know my net worth. I shook my head. I don't want any of that. Patricia's voice shook. Then what do you want? I looked at each of them in turn. Richard with his country club tan and his assumption that money solves everything. Patricia with her status anxiety and her need to be seen with the right people. Amelia, still kneeling, mascara running down her face, and Jason standing apart from all of them, finally seeing clearly what he'd married into. I want you to learn something, I said quietly. I want you to understand that wealth without wisdom is just expensive ignorance, that designer labels don't make you sophisticated, that true class has nothing to do with how much you spend and everything to do with how you treat people who can't do anything for you. I turned to Jason. Your father and I built something substantial, not for show, not to impress anyone, but because we believed in creating value, in building something that would last. I've lived modestly because I don't need external validation. I know what I'm worth, and it has nothing to do with what I wear, or where I shop, or whether I can name-drop the right restaurants. I looked back at Amelia, still on her knees. Stand up, Amelia. Dignity isn't found on the ground. She stood shakily, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not just fear or embarrassment, but genuine shock. The shock of realizing that her entire understanding of the world had been wrong. You have a choice now, I told her. You can learn from this. You can become the kind of person who sees value beyond price tags and worth beyond wardrobes. Or you can go on as you have been and spend the rest of your life wondering who you're offending who you're underestimating, who might be watching you make a fool of yourself. I turned to walk back inside, then paused. For what it's worth, I didn't do this to humiliate you. I did it to wake you up. What you do with that wake-up call is entirely up to you. I left them on the terrace and returned to the gala. The evening continued. People congratulated me. The foundation announced record-breaking donations. The necklace would be auctioned at Christie's next month, with estimates climbing even higher than Evelyn's appraisal. And at table 7, 4 empty chairs sat testament to a family that had learned an expensive lesson about judging people by their covers. Jason called me the next morning. He was alone, he said. Amelia had gone to stay with her parents. He wanted to see me. I made tea in my small kitchen, in my chipped cups, and waited. When he arrived, he looked like he hadn't slept. He sat at my small table and put his head in his hands. I failed you, he said simply. You failed yourself, I corrected gently. You let someone else define your reality. You let Amelia convince you that her version of sophistication was the only version that mattered. She's devastated. Her parents are mortified. There are articles online. People are calling her the heiress who couldn't tell sapphires from paste. That's unfortunate. Mum, she's my wife. Yes, she is. And you have some decisions to make about what that means. He looked up at me, his eyes red. Do you want me to leave her? I want you to stop asking me what I want and start asking yourself what you need. Can you spend your life with someone who values appearance over substance? Someone who treats people differently based on what they can offer? Someone who threw away a priceless gift because she couldn't be bothered to find out if it had value? She said she'll change. Maybe she will. People can change, Jason, but they only change when the cost of staying the same becomes unbearable. Right now, Amelia's embarrassed. But is she changed? That's what you need to figure out. He nodded slowly. And us? You and me? I reached across the table and took his hand. You're my son. Nothing changes that, but I won't be disrespected in my own family. I won't be treated like an embarrassment or a burden or a charitable obligation. If Amelia stays in your life, she needs to understand that. Really understand it. Not just pretend to understand it until this blows over. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry I didn't see it sooner. You see it now. That's what matters. He left an hour later, and I stood at my window watching him drive away in his expensive car, bought with money from a trust fund his father set up, funded by investments I managed. My brilliant, kind, slightly naive son who had to learn the hard way that love without respect is just attraction. The necklace sold at Christie's 6 weeks later for $920,000. The Children's Hospital Foundation sent me a letter thanking me for my transformative generosity. They put my name on a plaque in the new cardiac wing. I asked them to take it down. That's not why I did it. Jason and Amelia are still together. She's different now, or at least she's trying to be. She calls me Mom again, carefully, tentatively, like she's learning a new language. She asks questions instead of making assumptions. She's quit 3 of her 5 country club committees to volunteer at a women's shelter. I don't know if it's genuine or if it's penance, but I suppose time will tell. The Millers don't speak to me. That's fine. We never had anything to say to each other anyway. Maria, my son's housekeeper, bought a small house in her hometown with the money I gave her. She sends me Christmas cards with pictures of her grandchildren. That's worth more to me than all the sapphires in Ceylon. As for me, I'm still wearing my sensible shoes, still shopping at farmers' markets, still living in my modest condo with my chipped teacups and my second-hand books. But now when I visit Jason and Amelia's house, there's a difference. It's subtle, but it's there. They see me now, really see me. Sometimes silence is golden, but sometimes truth is sapphire blue, rare and precious and absolutely wasted on people who can't tell the difference between a label and a legacy. I learned that lesson watching my daughter-in-law throw away a fortune. But the real fortune, the one she almost threw away, was something much more valuable than gems. It was the chance to be better than her worst instincts, to see beyond the surface, to understand that worth isn't worn on the body but carried in the heart. She's learning that now. We all are.